Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Texas with Senator Bryan Hughes and Governor Greg Abbott.
How y'all doing?
Yeah.
Proud to have everybody here in the great state of Texas.
Yeah. Governor, I know we're all excited to have CPAC back in Texas. And so I've had the pleasure of being on the campaign trail with you. And everybody knows Governor Abbott knows how to campaign and how to deliver once we get in office. So on the trail, you talk a lot about the importance of keeping Texas, Texas. Give us a flavor of what you mean by that and what we're doing along those lines.
I'll answer the question, two quick pieces of business. One, for those who do not know, this is State Senator Bryan Hughes. Bryan Hughes has been the architect of making Texas the most pro-life state in the United States of America.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you.
For those who are not from Texas, I know it's just a matter of time until you become Texans, and so let me say in advance, welcome to the great state of Texas. But it kind of goes back to what Senator Hughes was talking about. When I'm campaigning, I talk about the importance of keeping Texas, Texas. And the challenge we face in that regard was articulated a little bit a while ago in the Meet It Past panel when they were talking about these people who are trying to come in and change Texas values. And it doesn't make sense because you all know Texas is well known for cowboys and capitalism. And what we're seeing seeping into our state here in our large blue cities, and that is the encroachment of socialism on our policies. Look at the crazy things Madami said in New York, the communist from New York. Look at the crazy things Beto O'Rourke said when he ran against me for governor. And by the way, we beat Beto O'Rourke by double digits in the last election. And look at the crazy, wacky things that James Talarico is saying when he's running for the United States Senate here in the state of Texas. Exactly. But here's the deal. It's one thing for these radical leftists to say these socialistic things. It's another thing when they get into office and actually implement them. The reality is we have found that socialistic policies in Texas are deadly. In Texas, we elect our judges, and Democrats, socialists were elected to be judges of criminal courts, and they don't believe in keeping people behind bars. They believe in letting dangerous criminals back out on the streets, including people arrested for murder. These socialist judges let them back out on the streets only to see these arrested murderers murder somebody else. Senator Hughes and I worked together to make sure we put an end to that, and we got a law passed this past session that keeps those dangerous murderers behind bars where they belong. But this was just the most recent thing these socialists have done along those law enforcement lines, because it was just a couple of years ago when we saw in Texas what was taking place in Minnesota, and that is the defund the police movement. We saw it in Dallas and Austin and Houston and other places, and we said, that's not going to happen here because in Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. To make sure that wasn't going to happen, however, I worked with Senator Hughes, and we got a bill passed. I signed into law where in Texas, we will defund any city that defunds their police. Strongest law of its kind in the United States of America. Another strongest law of its kind, again, is something that Senator Hughes and I worked on together. I signed a law this past session to ban the ability of any foreign adversary like China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea from buying property in the state of Texas. And I used that same law to go on and identify those who are foreign terrorist organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE, and I designated them as foreign terrorist organizations.
Governor, I'm glad you mentioned all those points. The last one that's getting a lot more attention lately around the country. People are concerned about the rise of radical Islam. Of course, we're for religious freedom. You're a lawyer, a judge, a legal scholar. You're an American, and we're for religious freedom. We are not for radical Islam imposing its laws in America. So will you give us a flavor of what you've already done and what's coming on radical Islam?
So listen, this is something that we've been fighting for well over a decade. Let me just run through a couple of items real quick. In 2015, back when Obama was still president, he tried to impose upon Texas an inflow. Yeah, boo Obama. It's easy to boo. But Obama tried to impose an inflow of Syrian refugees. Syria, by the way, is a known terrorist country, and he tried to put them in the state of Texas, and I said, Texas is not accepting your Syrian refugees. And then the next year in 2016, Obama tried to bring in other refugees from other terrorist-based countries, and I said, we're just going to completely pull out from the refugee resettlement program in the state of Texas. Then in the next year, we wanted to make sure that we safeguarded our laws and our culture in the state of Texas, and I worked with Senator Hughes here and got a law passed. It's called American Law and American Courts, and what it does, it ensures that only American law, no foreign law, no Sharia law can be applied in our courts in the state of Texas. But let's fast forward all that stuff to just last year. Just this last year, there was a Islamic radical organization called Epic and Epic City that tried to set up operations to have a Muslim-only Sharia-based community just north of where we are right here. And state agencies investigated what they'd done, found illegal wrongdoing, and were able to shut it down. However, that was not enough because we worked on a law last year that I signed that bans Sharia and radical Islamic Muslim compounds like that from the state of Texas.
And Governor, you were talking about those laws that we passed to protect from hostile foreign adversaries, and you wisely used that to deal with CARE, with the Muslim Brotherhood. And I think you mentioned you designated them as foreign terrorist organizations. What's the effect of that?
So the effect of it is it prohibits them, for one, from buying property in the state of Texas. However, what we saw is there were some schools in the state of Texas that had worked with CARE to try to put on events in their schools, and I invoked my designation of them as a foreign terrorist organization, and I denied those schools the ability to host anything connected to a foreign terrorist organization.
Thank you, Governor. So, Governor, we sit here today, all of us, with a secure border. And it's easy to forget what it was like just a couple of years ago during the dark days of the Biden administration. And I know you know this, and we don't want to forget how Texas was standing alone, holding the line. And give us a flavor of what was done and what you did to secure the border in Texas and to let folks around the country know what was happening.
Right. Well, as you point out, you know, what I find today, it seems like people have short memories, because with where we are today, people forget it was just over a year ago when we were seeing 5,000 or 6,000 illegal immigrants crossing into Texas a day. Biden had brought in tens of millions of illegal immigrants into our country, and Texas bore the brunt of that, and that's why I created what's called the Lone Star Project to make sure that we crack down on it, Operation Lone Star. And what it did, Texas became the only state in the history of the United States of America to build our own border wall, denying illegal entry. We also deployed up to 10,000 of our elite National Guard to build military-grade razor wire border barrier and to deny illegal entry and to repel back into Mexico those who are trying to cross into our country illegally. Give it up for the elite National Guard of the great state of Texas. Then we created our own legal system for those who are crossing the border illegally. We created new jurisdictions, new courts, new detention facilities, because if they got into the United States, and what we did is we arrested them for trespassing. They got a hearing real quick by video, and then they were put in jail. And then when they got out of jail, we'll put them in removal proceedings to remove them from the United States of America. And then also, I signed the strongest border security law of any state ever, where now Texas has a law where every law enforcement officer across the entire state is fully authorized to arrest anybody here illegally and to begin the deportation proceedings.
Right.
Working with President Trump, however, a president who's enforcing the law, there are now 0 illegal immigrants allowed to cross the border illegally and remain in the United States of America. Texas has a lot of number 1 rankings. One of our number 1 ranking is Texas ranks number 1 for the most deportations of any state in the United States of America.
And Governor, speaking of deportations, as you know, here in Texas, we were facing the reality of illegal immigration. But some places like New York City and other places thought it was cool to be for illegal immigration because they weren't dealing with it. What'd you do about that?
Well, they're called sanctuary cities. And so New York and Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia and all these other cities, they were self-declared sanctuary cities. Once Biden allowed these illegal immigrants into the United States, they were fully authorized by the federal government to stay here. However, I did not want them to be in the state of Texas, and that's when we began that operation to bus illegal immigrants to these sanctuary cities like Washington, D.C., like New York City, like Philadelphia. It exposed the Democrats for the hypocrisy of what they stood for, but also, as President Trump himself told me, when I did that, he said it flipped the switch among Americans realizing how serious this matter was, and it made illegal immigration the most important issue in the presidential race, and it propelled Donald J. Trump back into the White House. Amen. For the United States of America.
Governor Abbott, you have led, Texas has led on so many free market conservative reforms, led the country. We're thankful to be able to work with other states and compete to do good things. And one of the things that was big last year because of your leadership was a universal school choice in Texas. Tell us about that.
So listen, Texas finally caught up with other Republican states, and we fought and we got past the largest day 1 school choice program in the history of the United States of America. We now have more than 250,000 applications pending to be a part of school choice program. But here's what school choice really does. It empowers parents to choose the education pathway that's best for their child. It does something else, however. It injects competition. School choice equals school competition. What that does, it elevates every education platform. It forces our public schools, our private schools, our charter schools, our home schools to deliver a better education product. And that leads us to our goal. Our goal is to make sure Texas ranks number 1 for educating our children.
Amen.
But here's the deal. Even with the pathway to good education, we are not going to have the best education unless we ensure our kids are having access to the best curriculum. And we reformed curriculum. Working with Senator Hughes, we banned DEI in public schools across the state of Texas. We banned boys and girls sports in our schools in the state of Texas. These are just common sense principles that we are ensuring that our kids will be focused on reading, writing, math, and science as opposed to the woke ideology that's being crammed down their throats in some other states.
Amen. Governor, some of our friends visiting from other states or watching the broadcast may have heard this stuff about how Texas is going to turn blue. This is the year the Democrats are going to get us. Tell us the truth about that.
So I'm guessing here many of you have followed the U.S. Senate race in the state of Texas. You know what's going on in the Republican primary runoff. And you may know this guy named James Tallarico, who's... Sounds like most of you have an understanding about who he is. But I mean, here's the deal. You've seen the crazy stuff that has surfaced about things he's posted on social media. And however crazy he is, I can tell you his votes are even worse. He is in the form of Beto O'Rourke. He's crazy, and we are not going to allow the Tallarico takeover of the state of Texas. Listen, Tallarico, if you look at his votes, he's come out in favor of defunding the police. He's come out in favor of open border policies. He's come out in favor of boys and girls sports, as well as this gender modification. He is wrong for Texas, and we are going to ensure that we secure our state from such a takeover. We're going to keep Texas red. We're going to safeguard the values that keep Texas, Texas. Thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless the great state of Texas. Thanks.